Observation number 3 of faithful steward is that they took responsibility for what they were given. Might be my favorite part of the whole story. As the master's handing out the 5 talents and the 2 and the 1, nobody's going, "Hey man, how come you got 5 and only got 1, man? That's not cool." No griping or complaining here. Because the master in his wisdom dispensed treasure and responsibility to each what? According to their ability. Now there's lots of stuff here to tease out that I promised the elders I wouldn't too much. But take for a moment that Jesus in his kingdom where there is no sin and there is nothing but perfection and joy has no concern that everyone gets a fair distribution of his wealth. Not one. You say, that's not fair. No, that's wise. If Jesus were to give the one with the capacity for no more than 1 talent, he would crush that person and waste his resources. If Jesus were to give the one who had capacity for 5 talents only 1, he would bore that servant and he would waste the resources in what he should have given him. Therefore, in Jesus' wisdom, he gives to each according to their capacity. I'll let you tease out the political and economical ramifications of that, which I won't go into, but I'd love to. But I won't. Maybe in another series. Here's the point. This isn't a matter of how much they were given. This is a matter of how faithful they were with what they were given. Some of you are like, well, I'd be more generous. I'd give more money to church. I'd give more money to charity and ministries if I had more money. Let me clue you in on the delusion you're living. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. That's akin to saying, I would have invested more if the master had given me more, but in his idiotic foolishness, he didn't give me enough to do anything with, so I had to go bury it. No, I think Jesus had pretty high expectation for the servant here he gave 1 talent to. So if you're sitting here thinking, I make 25 grand a year. If I made 35 grand, man, I'd be the most generous person in town. No, you wouldn't. Because Jesus is saying, I'm looking at what you're doing with what you already have. Because what you already have will determine whether I'll give you more or not. If you have this much and you're not generous with it, and you get this much, guess what will happen? Your standard of living goes up. Because people who say they have nothing to give are those that at the end of the day, put it this way, I've talked to a lot of people like, well, I'd give more, but I'm just in debt. Or I don't have much money to give, and so and they buy TVs and computers and smartphones and go to the movies and eat out and buy clothes and there's no money to give at the end of their spending because they never stop spending. Jesus is saying, boy, they're not really faithful what I've given them. I'm not sure if I can trust them with more. Now they might earn earthly and righteous riches, but see, there are categories of thinking of people in Jesus' teaching. There are righteous rich people who work hard, earnestly, employ wisdom and to their investments, and they leverage and build and create wealth and create jobs and cause flourishing to happen wherever they go. Whenever they touch, it grows and succeeds, and they acknowledge God as the giver of that wealth and the giver of that capacity, and they're generous with it, and those people are called righteous rich people. Jesus is never against rich people or the building of wealth, ever. But there are unrighteous rich people who make money through nefarious means, and they cheat and they steal, or always playing right on the edge of right or wrong to work the angle and chump people and steal from people, and then they use their amassing of wealth to buy bigger stuff and more toys and more possessions and basically use the means of grace God that they've given them of building wealth to indulge their selfish idolatry, which is really, really thin ice to stand on. To take something God's given you as a gift and turn it and use it for your indulgence and idolatry. Then there's righteous poor people. Work hard, don't have much, faithful with a little, live below their means, give generously with according to the measure they've been given, are happy and content, bring about flourishing and goodness and life and blessing all those around them. And Jesus says they've been faithful. So it's not a matter of the unrighteous rich person being more faithful than the righteous poor person. And then there are unrighteous poor people. Don't have much, and they hate it. They're full of envy and jealousy and maybe some deceit, and they're looking to kife things and live off other people's efforts, and they live on the take and sense of entitlement and don't work for a reward. They're lazy, and they're poor. They have to live off other people because they haven't worked for it themselves. So there is not an issue here. I want us to hear. This is not an issue. I don't want rich people leaving feeling guilty and poor people leaving feeling smug. That's not what Jesus is talking about. This is not an issue of an amount. This is an issue of faithfulness. What are you doing with what you currently have? Therefore, nobody gets out from underneath the prying eyes of Jesus. Whether you have much or little, the question is, are you being faithful or foolish?